First, though, how do we meet the growing demand for energy in the future? Well, some say that fracking is the answer. Fracking is the forced extraction of shale gas from rock beneath the earth, and we might have enormous supplies of it. Fracking's opponents, like fashion designer Vivienne Westwood, say the drilling could lead to an ecological disaster, though. So who's right? Will fracking produce a new, cleaner, cheaper source of energy, or is it a backward step that endangers the environment? Campaigners superglued themselves to the doors of the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs last week. They believe the government is hiding evidence on the impact of shale drilling. It was one of a series of protests in recent weeks, with marches in Yorkshire, Lancashire and Fermanagh. There are said to be huge quantities of shale rock across the north of England, billions of barrels of oil in the south and oil and gas in central Scotland. Some of these areas are already licensed, and last month new pockets of land across Britain were opened up for firms to bid for drilling contracts. The Prime Minister says there'll be a tightening of the rules around exploration in national parks and areas of outstanding natural beauty, but that fracking is the future.
Shale is important for our country. It could bring 74,000 jobs, over £3 billion of investment, give us cheaper energy for the future and increase our energy security. I want us to get on board this change that is doing so much good and bringing so much benefit to North America. I want us to benefit from it here as well.
The process involves fracturing rocks deep underground with water, sand and chemicals to extract natural gas. It's been banned in France on environmental grounds, not in the United States though, where it's said to have reduced energy bills. Those who oppose it say fracking is not the answer to Britain's energy needs.
Fracking will accelerate climate change, pollute our environment and lock us into yet more dependence on fossil fuels, precisely when the overwhelming scientific and political consensus confirms that we need to move urgently in the opposite direction.
So, will fracking mean lower bills and more jobs, or is it an environmental time bomb? We're joined now by Vivienne Westwood, who is against fracking, as we said. Morning, Vivienne. Nice to see you. And Nick Greeley, the director of No Hot Air, which is an energy consultancy firm with fracking companies amongst its clients. And welcome to the programme, Nick.
Good morning.
Nice to see you. Vivienne first. We heard the Prime Minister there saying fracking can bring so much good, increase energy security, jobs. Why not support it as part of the solution?
In order to answer your question, we have first to deal with the cause of why people want to frack. Now then, this cause is the cause of all our problems, and it's being aired across the media all the time now. It's very, very dominant discussion.
What is it?
And it is that we have reached the end of capitalism.
Well,
and what are we going to do in the future?
I wish.
No, wait a moment.
Well, can we stick to energy needs? If we start talking about capitalism, we'll never be able to
Yes, I know,
finish.
but this is why I'm here, to try to inform the public clearly of the problem. And it's absolutely necessary that I continue to say this. This is why I'm here. Anyway, so the reason that capitalism has this crisis, it's come to its sell-by date, is very simple. It's because capitalism is run on fossil fuel, and fossil fuel is now more difficult to extract, and capitalism cannot go on making these profits.
So where do you find the energy from if the fossil fuels are running out?
I will tell you. And so, anyway, the point is that the establishment and the ruling minority of this country are desperate to keep the capitalist system going. There is a way out from this, and that is to work towards a people's economy, which would be a sustainable economy.
But we are, at the moment,
and
what
that
we're looking
is
at...
the problem.
All right, but we have to narrow the debate to energy's running out.
Yes.
Where do we find the next set of energy? Is fracking the answer?
OK,
Nick.
I think...
Well, shall I just finish then and tell you that?
But
yes.
Just briefly,
by the time, if the frackers are allowed to wreck the country, by the time they will have wrecked the country, solar will be cheaper. It just is going to get dearer and dearer, and it will also bankrupt this
OK, so it's
it will also financially bankrupt this company.
OK, so we don't need fracking because renewables will take the place
there are
of fracking.
so many multiple misconceptions there. It's hard to know where to begin. Number one, with what you had said about energy, actually, we use the same amount of energy, measured in trillions of barrels of oil equivalent, as we did in 1967, even though there are almost 10 million more people.
Right, so we don't need to frack, then?
No, not at all. We're always going to need natural gas, because natural gas is the best, lowest carbon fuel. And it's also the one that's most flexible. Yesterday morning, for example, in this country, 18% of electricity was generated by wind. But this morning, 2.5% is. And we're not going to be able to switch off 15% of all electricity. We need gas. Or the alternative is coal, which is nasty, evil stuff.
If fracking is an alternative supply to our energy needs, there are those who say that there are severe environmental concerns. We don't know enough about the impact. In America, they're saying that some methane is getting out into the environment, which is unforgivable. They say it uses too much water. There are a plethora of reasons why people are saying fracking is not the answer.
OK, and if you look at all those ones, and especially if you go to my website, I'll give myself a plug for the facts about...
we know where to find you. OK.
Exactly. Is water, for example. I mean, water use is absolutely minimal, OK? We also have the situation in the US of methane emissions. There's been one study that says that methane is an issue, but there have been a dozen other studies, and most recently from the US National Academy of Science, which says that it is not an issue.
OK, Owen.
Right, well, look, firstly, the threat to humanity from climate change, which James here doesn't agree with because he's on the flat earth wing of this debate, is very serious. By the end of this century, it's estimated that will be 5 centigrade above where we were in pre-industrial times.
And will fracking add to that, or reduce it?
I find it a bizarre distraction. Yes, it uses less, it emits less carbon emissions, but it still obviously emits them. We need to move away from that. Let's just think about it. Fracking, it's estimated, if it comes completely to the extent you want, will only meet, according to official estimates, 5% of our energy needs. It will not reduce, and the official estimates now have suggested that, quite contrary to these claims in America, where it won't be as cheap as it is in America, will not bring down our energy bills.
Any official statistics from the UK.
Oh, well, energy... well, you don't like the official estimates, OK, fair enough, but the real issue is it's a distraction from renewable energy. What I'm frustrated about is we've allowed Germany to roar ahead of us, investing in hundreds of thousands of renewable energy jobs, skilled, secure jobs, which are taking on the environmental crisis and the jobs.
We're being left behind with the flat Earth people.
Okay.
That's
Can I
what
say
we're saying.
Just hang on, Nick. You've had your say. Hang on. You've had your say. If renewables aren't ready because we haven't been there pursuing them, then fracking.
But this is the point. We've given a 50% tax break to these fracking companies. Instead, we should be investing in renewable energy, which will provide the secure jobs of the future, and it's getting cheaper renewable energy. That's another key.
I think it's fantastic.
And fracking is going to take at least 10 years before it is enough to use. Meanwhile, it'll have wrecked the country. House prices will go down by 25%.
I don't think most people on the countryside will be.
The country will be in financial ruin.
They've spoken enough. I wanted to say thank you to Vivienne Westwood for 2 reasons. First, for letting me see those fantastic shoes she's wearing. I love them. And secondly, for getting to the root of the anti-fracking argument, which has got nothing to do with the environment or anything else. It's ultimately about anti-capitalism. It's Luddism, pure and simple. All the claims made about fracking, that it increases methane releases, that it pollutes the water table, that it makes your tap burn. It's all being demonstrated to be
I've researched this past week, and there are claims and counterclaims, and you can use statistics on either side.
Well, you should look at the issue of carcinogenic chemicals being released.
What I'd like to quote to you is from the Chartered Institute of Environmental Health. They say there are Chartered Institute, they're environmental health people. They are
ad hoc, made-up body that is going to
there are shortcomings in oversight.
Junk propaganda.
And they have
the
admitted
water-intensive
publicly
nature of the fracking process, and it will not bring down energy bills. There's a lack of evidence.
Sean, in the US, do you know...
Person.
Excuse me, I'm meant to be on my side. In the US, do you know how much water of the US water fracking uses?
About the same amount that it uses for golf courses.
0.3% of America's water usage is devoted to fracking.
0.3%.
The real issue...
Ultimately, we need cheap, abundant energy, and fracking...
The real risks are...
Right.
It's this release of methane, which you've not properly investigated or researched, because it's a new technology, whatever you say, the release of potentially...
I've been looking at this for 6 years.
The release of carcinogenic chemicals, which do pose a threat to people, as well as the fact this is a distraction from the fact we should be focusing on the renewable energy jobs and industries of the future, which will provide hundreds of thousands of jobs.
Just deal with that methane point. Is it the case that there will be an escape of methane? Because basically,
not if done properly. No.
Not if done properly.
Exactly.
Yeah. But 20% of oil wells and drills in the United States are not run properly.
I think that you'll find that figure is just not true.
Do you think there will be
a situation at the moment where our country is being carpeted with ugly bird-chopping, bat-slicing wind turbines, and one 25-acre fracking site could produce the same amount of energy as all the wind farms in the country?
Methane.
Why on earth would we...
It's a distraction.
Piss all these people off.
Excuse me.
More
No,
powerful.
there's no use... I'm not having swear words on the programme.
Methane is 100 times more powerful than
Why should we annoy people?
when measured over a 20-year period.
To then
it's
throw
more
methane
polluting.
away. It's not logical.
We're going to stop on the methane point. We're going to go to the London Mellah and the calm of the Mellah with a little bit of lovely dancing in the background and Bobby
Because
Fritsch.
they'll know, won't they?
Listen,
Morning, hang on a
fracking
second.
is anti-democratic.
I'll be with you in just a sec.
People don't even know what
Vivienne,
it is.
just a sec, I'll be back with you. Okay. Bobby.
Thanks a lot. OK, so I'm joined here by Sheila Menon, an environmental campaigner who was actually arrested with Caroline Lucas MP at the anti-fracking demonstrations in Balcombe last year. So, Sheila, why were you prepared to actually give up your civil liberties, go to prison for this cause?
Well, obviously I had no intention of being arrested last summer, but I did feel it was my moral duty to protest and therefore risk my civil liberties to protest against fracking, because I believe with every cell in my body that it is categorically the wrong direction for us to be moving in. The potential risks to the environment, to our health, to humanity at large far outweigh any potential gains that our government and the industries are telling us through the millions of pounds that they're spending each year on spin.
But we are hurtling towards an energy crisis. We do need a new form of energy, many new forms of energy. Why not fracking?
The estimates for how much fossil fuels we can actually extract through fracking have been proven to be grossly overestimated. So the energy security promises and the financial benefits are basically also grossly overestimated.
All right. Thanks a lot, Sheila. And that's it from us here at the London Mellah. Sean, you and all the guests in the studio, we'd love to see you later on from 1 o'clock, West London.
All right, see you then. Thanks, Bobby. Nick, just answer that point very briefly about the financial estimates have been completely overblown.
That is very old hat, and we see today in the United States, and that is where everything has been disproved, that it is going forward at an amazing rate. In the United States, 5 years ago, they were saying, no, it'll never work. Right now, it does over 50% of all gas.
All right. Vivienne, final word from you.
Regarding the United States, it's now seen to be a shambles. They're called wildcatters. Hundreds of people have been drilling this extreme process of drilling. Now they can't service their debt, the expense they spent on the infrastructure, because the gas has peaked, it's plateaued, and they're having to drill more and more and get more and more into debt or go bankrupt. Okay. That's what's happening in America, plus the poison. And by the way, David Cameron lies when he says that things are getting, that it's cheaper energy.
Right, well, we can't call him a liar without him being here to defend himself.
Yeah,
I'm going to have to leave it, both of you. Ne'er the twain shall meet, unfortunately, on this one. we do have to bring you our vote because you have been voting in the text and online vote today. So here is the result. Is multiculturalism working? Here is what you told us. 5% of those of you who voted said yes, it is. 95% of those of you who voted this morning said no, it isn't. Let's have a quick reaction to that vote result from Owen.
Well, fortunately, the actual scientific polling of people suggests that's not quite
that is
pessimistic.
No, we're not calling it scientific poll.
But look, the key point is, yes, there are always tensions which we need to work on. We need to bring our communities together. But look, Britain has the highest level of interracial relationships, one of the highest levels in the entire world, let alone in the Western world. That says to me, people from different cultures in places like London, this diverse city, are not only they're working together, they're living together, they're even sleeping together. And the real issue is we need to break down segregation, like faith schools. We need to deal with issues like, for example, we concentrate poor people in particular areas because of the lack of social housing, and that disproportionately includes people from black and minority ethnic communities. So let's promote communities which are mixed, which live together, and let's take on the obstacles and the concerns people have. Of course, we take on them.
I think the thwacking great majority in that poll says it all. The multicultural experiment in Britain has failed totally, and people have finally realised how much it has failed. Rotherham was just one example. We're seeing cases all around the country. It has been a disaster. I think that this is going to be the turning point.
James, thank you. Thanks to all our guests here. Whew, that was a heated morning.